No, fans, it's games like this that used to get me over-medicated.
You're listening to Sports Zone.
Just a bit outside.
Where real guys talk sports.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, have no fear. We are here.
Yeah!
That is what we do.
What is what we do?
This is what happens when me and Joey both get a decent night of sleep. It's freaking awesome. Shout out to everybody in the chat room. We're very happy to see you guys in there. And not to mention, love to see all the opinions and facts being thrown out in there. We love it. We love it. If you are not listening with us in the chat room, then please join in. If you can't, then we understand. And shout out to you listening to us on the app.
Or you could always call in and join us, 201-430-2119.
And feel free to voice your opinion about any of the New York trades that took place yesterday, whether you're a Jets fan, a Yankees fan, or a New York Rangers fan. Real quick, we were talking about the Ichiro trade, and, like I mentioned before we hit the break, Ichiro actually asked for this trade. He said he is quoted as saying that. Wait, I have it written down. I do.
Do you? You sure?
Yes.
All right.
He is quoted. This is exact word for word from Ichiro's translator. When I spent time during the All-Star break to think, I realized that this team has many players in their early 20s. I began to think I should not be on this team next year. I also started to feel a desire to be in an atmosphere that I could have a different kind of stimulation than I have right now. AKA, wanted to go from a loser to a winner. Mm-hmm. And, we'll put the nice little coating on it and say that he wanted to help this Mariners team work on rebuilding.
Well, dude, I feel bad for Ichiro. I think he's only made it to the playoffs once, and that was his rookie year in 2001 when the Mariners won 116 games.
Yeah, he won MVP that year.
MVP,
and
Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's been in the playoffs since. And, if you're trying to get Ichiro to be your leadoff guy or your number 2 guy to be like the superstar of your team, it would have been a bad trade for anybody to make. But for the New York Yankees to get him to just be pretty much a role type of player, it is an underrated trade beyond belief.
Well, I mean, if you think about it, this deal pretty much helps the Yankee fill a hole that they had. And,
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
That nails what you were talking about earlier. I love that. But at the same time, it helps the man move on to a spot where maybe he can get something that he deserves. Like we said, this guy has been rocking out for years. He won MVP. He's won Rookie of the Year. He's won 2 AL batting titles. He has 10 gold gloves.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
unreal, bro.
First Major League Baseball, first Japanese-born position player in Major League Baseball. He leads the Mariners in all-time batting average and hits.
Dude, last season was his first year where he did not hit 300. He hit 272. Every other year before that, 303 or better. Every other year. Ridiculous, dude. I obviously I don't know, but in my weird demented skull, I kind of feel like he was just tired of losing in Seattle, tired of getting his butt whooped. The lights go out a little bit. You don't play as hard. You don't really try as hard when for the last 3 years you're in last place and there's nothing you can do about it. I really think this is going to revamp Mr. Ichiro Suzuki coming to the Yanks, bro. I really do.
I think the trade's huge for Ichiro. I do. I think it's beneficial. I think it's beneficial for him, the Yankees, and I mean, we don't know. I don't know much about the prospects that the Yankees sent over, but as Ichiro said, a lot of guys in their 20s. It's a young team. It's a team that, let's be honest. If they can, find some type of cohesion with each other and blend together and develop some relationships with each other, then there's nothing saying that this Mariners team in a couple years can't be pretty good with a bunch of young guys coming up together and learning the game together. I don't think that it's a bad trade for the Mariners. I don't. I think you're getting a guy in the last year of his contract off of your payroll.
Correct.
You're also adding 2 young pitching prospects. And on top of that, for everything he did for you over 12 years, The least you could have did was send him somewhere where he has a chance
Where he
to
has a
get
chance
a
to
ring
win.
on his finger before he calls it quits.
And you know what's funny? Sarah Mother effing Levy wrote in the chat room prior, like maybe 10 minutes ago, about how this was kind of like a big surprise. And it was. I didn't hear anybody talking about this. Al Money, like 2 months ago, jokingly called into our show saying, "Oh, what about Ichiro going to the Yankees?"
Yeah.
And I laughed at him. I was like, "Dude, Ichiro's not going to the Yankees. That ain't happening. He's not getting his 3,000 hit." But it really was a big surprise. I kind of feel like the Yankees went to Seattle, got there. Brian Cashman was talking to the GM, was like, "Yo, is Ichiro on the block?" And I feel like the Seattle GM was like, let me ask him. And that's how it kind of just went.
Ichiro, what do you want to do? I think that, you know what, a guy like him, too, he has the right to make that kind of call.
Absolutely,
He has the right
man.
to say, hey, look, it's not personal. I don't have issues with management. I don't have issues with the manager. I don't have issues with my teammates. I just think, as he said, he's looking for a different kind of stimulation than he has right now.
Yeah.
And pretty much that means going from a losing scenario to a winning scenario. Mm-hmm. It's a complete change in atmosphere, city,
Attitude and
lifestyle,
everything.
mentality of the
Yep.
organization.
Yep.
This organization, if they don't win World Series, considers the year a bust.
Not even making the playoffs. It's World Series or bust for the Yankees every year.
Yeah. Where most teams in the majors sit there and say, if we can make the playoffs,
That's
it was a
good.
good year. If we can advance around, it's a really good year.
Yep.
If we win the World Series, we had an amazing year. Where the Yankees say to
not with the
themselves,
Yanks.
if we don't put a ring on our fingers and get another trophy, then our year was a bust. Especially a year like this year, where things seem to be
They're
not falling in place, but sort of working out the right
working out,
way.
and especially with this move, though, because the Yankees were terrible with runners in scoring position. Needed that guy to get the slap hits, your slap singles, your drag bunts, and things like that. Just get on base. Ichiro's that kind of guy.
I say Ichiro has at least 5 ribbies against the Red Sox this coming weekend.
That's-
I'm going to make I say we
wow.
make Ichiro predictions
Ichiro
for the Red
predictions?
Sox series this weekend.
Wow. Well, we could do that. But one last thing about this Ichiro thing, and I apologize because I am bothered by this. It's not even that big of a deal. But Ichiro not speaking English bothers me. He's been in this country for so long, and it is your job. It is your job as being a part of a sport athlete to give interviews. Now, I'm not saying in his entire 10-year career he's never done an English interview. I personally don't know that. But I know every single post game, and from the interviews that I've seen, it's always his interpreter talking. I get it. That's
Does anybody
great.
even know that guy's name?
I don't. Pixel Junkie tells me he's got a very deep, Ichiro has a very deep Japanese accent. That's great. Guess what? Speak English. A lot of players come from different countries. A lot of Spanish players come from different countries who are not very comfortable speaking English, but they learn it, and they do their interviews in English. Even though they're not the best at it, and even though it gets a little lost in translation at times, the ball players do it. I'm sorry, Ichiro. I don't think you're special enough where you've been in the league for 10, 11, 12 years where why don't you
You should at least be able to speak a little English.
You shouldn't do that. That's the only thing that I have negative against this whole Ichiro thing. That's it. How terrible is that? I have to pick on his accent to find something negative about this.
If that's your biggest issue, I think you're doing good. Let's be honest here.
Yes, I agree with Marissa. Him saying, I play baseball, I understand. Pixel Junkie's right in the chat room that he speaks English. I know he speaks English, but he doesn't do his interviews in English.
Well, you know what?
He has his interpreter.
More importantly, I think Jeremy made the best point out of everybody. Don't be fooled. This is just making up for losing Jeremy Lin. Jeremy wrote that in the chat room. I laughed. I found it necessary to read it. Do I agree with it? No, but it's just funny, and I like it. So, I mean, could you imagine, though, the Knicks owner called up the Steinbrenner family and said,
yeah, well, you guys got to make up for our
we need to
mistake.
bring in a Asian American and try to help keep this New York market happy.
Jeremy brings up a valid point. He hears that Ichiro's a beast when it comes to sake bombs. So if the Yankees win the World Series, instead of champagne, they all might be doing sake bombs.
I've never had a sake bomb.
I never have either.
I heard they're rough. I heard they were rough.
I heard they get you loaded pretty quickly.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have to do sake bombs one day.
Sounds good.